Good morning, everyone. I'm E.L. Lancaster, Chair of the MTNA 2020 Conference Planning Committee. And it may not be morning where you are, but it's 9 o'clock here in California. And I know we've had text all morning because all of you have been seeing the fires that are in the area. Luckily, from my office where I'm talking to you from, we're about 20 miles from the nearest one, and we're all good. So that's a good thing to know. And I thank you for all your concern about this. The air quality is kind of crazy when you go outside, and it kind of varies from the way the winds are, really, is what's happening. We're not here really to talk about the fires. We're here to talk about the MTNA National Convention and the one that's in Chicago. And I hope you'll all be. You may know this 2020 convention is being held at the Chicago Marriott downtown. And you know, the first MTNA convention was held in 1876. And the 2020 conference will be the 12th conference that's being held in Chicago. The Chicago conference is really very important to me personally because the first conference that I attended was in Chicago. It was in 1971. And I was a master's student at the University of Illinois. And several of our pedagogy students traveled there to the conference. So I hope that you'll plan to do that as well. Shortly after, I began my first teaching job in the Chicago area. Now, I do have to admit that I'm addicted to MTNA National Conferences. I told you my first one was in 1971. After that, my next one was in 1975. All these dates really kind of date me, I guess. But the reason I tell you this is because I have been to every conference since 1975. And I guess, why do I do that? Why am I addicted to the conference? It has to be because of all of the sessions, all the performances, all the master classes, and all of the exhibits, because they contribute to my professional work, they contribute to my teaching, and more importantly, it's so good for me to see all my professional friends in the area. Now, think about going to the Chicago Convention. It's at the Chicago Marriott downtown. And if you look on the screen, you'll see that the prices there are really reasonable for staying downtown in Chicago. And this is a newly remodeled hotel, so you're going to enjoy that as well. It's on that special area in Chicago downtown where you can walk and see all the various things that are there. I even read somewhere they have a new 3-story Starbucks that's within walking distance of that. I'll tell you, my wife Gail Kowalczyk and I are fortunate in that the convention is actually during our spring vacation from our teaching, and we're going in a couple of days early. We're going in to perhaps go to the Chicago Symphony, and I know they have a Friday afternoon concert, and they're playing a Mahler symphony. I want to say it's Mahler 5, but to be honest, I don't remember what Mahler it is. I know it's not the Symphony of 1,000, though. So we're going to do things like the Art Institute. And what I've really discovered is that the group rate that you now see on the screen actually starts on Wednesday night before the convention starts. So that's a great way to actually to see some of Chicago. And we actually are looking forward to go visiting our favorite restaurants there, etc. Now, the Conference Planning Committee has worked hard to choose sessions. We had such a hard job. There were over 400 proposals, and to be honest, almost any of them would have been excited, but we had to narrow it down. And you can see a list of the people who were on the planning committee there. We did meet at the MTNA National Offices in Cincinnati in June and spent 2 days really just trying to plan the best program for you that's actually possible. Now, there was just a wide variety of things. And think about all the different things that happen at the MTNA conference. Now, the nice thing about the conference is there are so many performance sessions and so many concerts that you can hear, and at a relatively reasonable price when you think about what concerts are in what they cost in Chicago or in a Los Angeles area like where we live in. The opening session concert will be the first prize winner of the National Chopin Piano Competition. Now, if you know anything about the National Chopin Piano Competition, it's held every 5 years in the United States. And it offers performance opportunities and financial support to young American pianists and enable them to take part in the International Chopin Competition. So that opening concert will be the winner of the Chopin competition. The Tuesday night recital with the conference artist Anton Nell. And if you know Anton Nell, you know that he is on the faculty at the University of Texas. And he has an international performing career. And let me just tell you a little bit more about him. His performances have been with orchestras such as the Cleveland Orchestra, the Chicago Symphony, San Francisco, and Dallas. He's appeared in overseas in London and Amsterdam, and he, as I said earlier, he holds the long chair at the University of Texas at Austin, and is on the faculty at Aspen, and also on the faculty at the Ravinia Institute. Before I go on and talk about other things that are happening there, I will tell you that this webinar will be archived on the MTNA site only for MTNA members. And if you do have questions, I will take questions at the end, and you can write those questions on the chat room. And I'll be happy to answer as much as I can, or if I don't know the answer, I'll find the answer for you. Moving ahead, our keynote speaker is Noah Kageyama, and he is a performance psychologist. He's on the faculty of Juilliard, and he's a performance psychology coach for the New World Symphony. He holds degrees both from Oberlin and Juilliard. His degree from Oberlin was in psychology, and his degree from Juilliard was in violin performance. And he received an MS and a PhD in counseling and counseling psychology from Indiana University. Now, he specializes in teaching performing artists how to utilize sports psychology principles to more consistently demonstrate ability under pressure. And we know all of us can benefit from that, and can benefit from that kind of information to take back to our students. He's participated at conferences throughout the country, including the NATS convention, and he's been featured in Musical America, in the Wall Street Journal, etc. Moving on, of course, in addition to speakers like this, we also have, and my webinar is, my PowerPoint is doing some weird things here, so bear with me for just a minute. Our intermediate masterclass, it will be presented by Dennis Alexander. There was a picture of Dennis here, but it seems to have disappeared. We'll just take a little minute and see if it comes back on. And I'm sure most of you are well aware of Dennis Alexander. There he is, right there. Dennis was on the faculty at the University of Montana, and he has now retired, but he continues to teach. He continues to teach a variety of students at a variety of levels, and he continues to write music for those students. He currently lives in Albuquerque, and I know many of you will be looking forward to that masterclass. And Dennis always has such insightful things to say and deals so much with artistry and choreography and really making music exciting for the young students. Now, our next masterclass is by Tim Topham. You may follow Tim. Tim's an Australian. You may follow him on his blog from Australia. And he, when they say a creative teaching masterclass, what's he going to do? He is going to look at creativity and how you work with creativity. He's presented at conferences really around the world, and his writing's been featured in our own American Music Teacher magazine, and he has a community of teachers who work with him and follow him on his blog and help them with his students. I personally have watched him work with young students and help them do creative things with lead sheets and with playing by ear. So this is going to be a unique, I think, opportunity for us to see Tim live in action with young students. So 2 different kinds of master classes. Also, the advanced master class will be by our convention artist, Anton Nell. So not only will you be able to hear him play, but you'll be able to see him work with students as well. And that's always a treat when you hear Anton Nell in a master class. On the Saturday before the convention, Pedagogy Saturday will feature a whole day. You can choose from 4 different tracks. Teaching artistry. Now, I think artistry is probably one of the most interesting things that we have, and one of the most unique things, and it's how to bring it out to students, how to get them to listen, how to get them to project their artistry to their audience, how to keep them interested in that. And our convention chair, Peter Mack, has put together an interesting and exciting program that you'll want to deal with that. Music wellness, always an important thing for students. Our chair, Gail Berenson, has worked on that particular aspect of the program. Recreational music making, so important for keeping music alive today, keeping people playing for fun, keeping them playing for their own enjoyment, to share with their family and friends in a way that's kind of off the concert stage. So you'll learn ways to actually incorporate recreational music making into your curriculum, whether you're working in a group or whether you're working with individual lessons. Now, our Young Professionals track is chaired by Ruby Chow. Young professionals, that is the future of our profession. So it's so important for them to have special sessions that work with what they're going to be doing, that allow them to expand their expertise. So I think they will truly enjoy that. Now, I mentioned earlier that one of the reasons that keeps me going back to MTNA conferences every year are all of the sessions. Now, if you look at the slide, you'll see different types of areas in which there are sessions. And one of the things that our convention planning committee really did so often, so much in planning for this convention, was to make sure we had a good balance. I always say to teachers when they go to a workshop, you know, you're always looking for at least that one thing from every session that you can take and use the next time you teach. There are so many sessions, you're going to have so many things to take home and use the next time that you teach. Now, what I would like to do, and I don't have this on my on an overhead, is share with you some of my favorite sessions that I want to make sure attend. I'd like to think of this as being a sneak preview. Now, most of you know that 2020 is the 250th birthday of Beethoven. Now, the MTNA National Conference, I'd like for you to think of it as a big birthday bash for Beethoven. Now, Anton Nell and his recital will include Beethoven works on the program, but there are several other sessions devoted to Beethoven. There's a session titled Beethoven at 250, a pedagogical legacy. There's a session on music for duo written by Beethoven and influenced by Beethoven. I know on that particular program that you'll hear performances of the Beethoven Sonata for one piano, four hands, Opus 6, and you'll hear a performance of the Beethoven Variations for piano duet. But also on that session, you will hear the Saint-Saëns Variations on a theme of Beethoven. We all teach the Beethoven piano sonatas, and you will have a session on frequently asked questions about the piano sonatas. There's also one other session on Beethoven that I think should pique all of our interest, because I want to see really what it is. The title of it is Beethoven and the American Piano Sonata. How does that relate with everything? Let's move on to another area, though. We are all affected by technology, and you can see that my technology is doing something weird with my PowerPoint flashing off, on and off. So I have no idea why that's happening, but maybe that's to keep everyone awake with all the flashes that are there. Here's an interesting session. I want to read you about technology. Tech Necessities 101, the latest and greatest technology for your studio. Music games, apps, small business software, video equipment for online lessons. And the person who's presenting that session is Noreen Winjin. She's the author of a book called To Your Waitlist, an entrepreneurial guide for music teachers. So I think Noreen's going to share with us ways to use all of those different types of technology in our studio. There's also a session based on the 5 best apps for teaching. And you know, all of the students are really into their cell phones. So having apps that really interest them is going to be really important. Finally, there's one other session that I want to call your attention to. It's called YouTube, Emoji, and Mimes, How to Be One of the New Decade's Coolest Teachers. So I definitely need to hear that session so that I can be cool for all my students. Now, one of the things that I always enjoy at the MTNA convention is learning about new literature. I think we all are search for new literature, not that we're finding new literature necessarily for our students, but we're finding new literature to keep our interest. And when I looked at this literature sessions that were offered and literature sessions that we had to choose from, I thought, what a wide variety we have to listen for. I taught a class, the keyboard literature class this past year at Cal State Northridge. So I was always on the lookout for interesting new literature to share with those students. Now, who were some of the composers we're going to hear about? Well, we're going to hear about Clara Schumann's solo piano works. We're going to hear about diversifying student repertoire by including some of the music of Hinastera. Ruth Crawford Seeger's Preludes for Piano. I don't really know those pieces. I certainly don't know them very well, and I definitely am interested in that. Then there are some new views of other pieces that we probably do know. There's a session titled Rediscovering Grieg's Lyric Pieces. Other sessions include the piano miniatures of Mampu, and a new composer that who's not a new composer, but one that I've discovered recently and that I really enjoy his music is Gustavino, the Argentine composer. Now, also this year, if you've been going to the MTNA conventions for the last 10 years, you will know that for the last 9 years, that the Collaborative Piano Commissioning Program has commissioned 2 composers each year to write collaborative pieces for piano and 2 other instruments for the intermediate level. This year we're celebrating the 10th year of this commissioning program. And as a part of that 10th year, I feel very fortunate that Gail and I are one of the new commissioned composers that will be premiered, also is Glenda Austin. But more importantly, there's a second session related to the collaborative commissioning program. Several pieces from the last 10 years will be reperformed as a retrospective of those different types of pieces. And I think the important thing about collaborative piano is it teaches our students really to listen and to be able to work with other students, and it brings engagement to them when they're working with student friends. Finally, I'm kind of a junkie for ensemble music. I love piano music. I love piano duets. I love monster concerts, and there are several sessions related to ensemble music. What I think is interesting about these sessions is not only do we have the session I mentioned earlier on the duo music inspired by Beethoven or written by Beethoven, but we have sessions on piano trios, we have sessions on piano quartets, even one to tell you how to form a piano quartet with colleagues in your areas. And then there is actually a performance of Kapustin Sinfonetto, Opus 49A for 1 piano, 4 hands. And you know, Kapustin is kind of the in composer today with his jazz background and combined with classical music background. Now, I haven't even touched on the sessions that you're going to hear on studio management, on collaborative piano, on practice strategies, on rote teaching, your things that will help you with your local associations, with your student chapters. There are just so many things. The biggest problem I always have is deciding what I want to hear. Finally, I want to mention one other session called The True Art of Playing and Teaching the Piano. When you say the true art, we're talking about the teaching of Nelita True. And many of you know Nelita True and her work with students throughout. And I'm very eager to hear that. And that will be done by Nelita's niece, Carolyn True. Moving ahead, don't forget, you'll also be able to hear some of our best students who have made it to the national finals of the MTNA competitions. The junior and chamber music is held on Saturday. The senior auditions are held on Sunday. The young artist auditions are held on Monday. And the 2 piano auditions, the Stecker and Horowitz competition, will be held on Tuesday of the convention. And those same students will be playing on the winners' concerts. And you'll see that those concerts, again, are held on Sunday for the junior and the chamber, on Monday for the senior, and on Tuesday for the young artist and the 2 piano. The conference gala is always a highlight because the 2020 MTNA Foundation members will be recognized along with new members of the Legacy Society and any new endowment funds that are there. Those of you who have been to the conference before know that you either look forward to or you don't look forward to Gary Engel's jokes that he always tells there. So you can either bring your earplugs for that or be prepared to laugh. Now, the deadline to nominate and fund a fellow is Monday, January the 20th. So if there's still someone that you want to nominate for an MTNA Foundation Fellow, there's time to do that. The exhibit hall, open 3 full days, 9 o'clock to 5:30. There are over 50 companies exhibiting. Now, so many teachers come and say, what's new? That's one of the questions they always ask. Also, they ask, what's the discount? and you'll see all the new things. You'll get the best discount uh, in the convention hall at MTNA, and you'll see things that are hot off the press. Now, in the showcases that happen on the 3 days, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday at 8 a.m. and at 1 p.m., you'll get to hear presentations based on new publications. You'll get to see product demonstrations of new technological things, new piano applications. Always a good chance to see what's new, what will interest your students. And these are some of the most interesting sessions that you'll find. And not only will you see new things, but many times you'll pick up new pedagogical ideas as well in those showcases. Now, if you haven't registered for the conference, be sure that you do it by December 5th, because that gives you the best rate for it. And you see there's a different price by February 6th, and there's a different price after February 6th. And if you can only come for one day, if you're in the Chicago area, or you can only afford one day, there is also a registration for the one day. How to register? You can register online. You can download the PDF online and mail it or fax it back with the payment. Or the December-January issue of American Music Teacher that we'll receive in a month or so has a form that you can complete with the payment. But remember that December deadline if you want the best conference price. And if you live in California like we do, sometimes our AMTs take a while to get here, so you may want to go online for that. How can you get involved in the conference? Well, first of all, attend the conference. Plan right now to attend the conference. Invite some other people to go with you, whether they're a member or not a member of your group. Invite them to attend the conference, because that's the way we can increase our MTNA membership, to get them excited about the programs that MTNA offers. And if you get a group of friends, if you're within driving distance, you can drive, you can travel together, you can brave the lines at the airport if there are lines. But a group of friends always makes it a lot more fun to attend. How can you make it more affordable? Well, right now, book your flights ahead of time. Drive. Chicago has, great train service depending on where you're coming from. Bus services. Other ways is share a room with a colleague, or 2 or 3 as it says there. And you can research affordable dining in the area ahead of time. And speaking of dining, I'll give you my favorite places. Anytime I go to Chicago, I have to get Chicago pizza. Now, there's various kinds of Chicago pizza. I mean, there's deep dish, but my absolute favorite is the stuffed pizza. It has to be at least that thick. And, when you leave from having stuffed pizza, you'll truly be stuffed. The other thing that I'm looking forward to, and having been in Chicago and lived in Chicago for a while, is going to the area called Greektown and getting the flaming cheese called Saganaki. So 2 things you have to get based on my recommendation: stuffed pizza and the flaming Saganaki. So with that being said, if you have questions, please do go ahead and write them down. This kind of concludes my formal presentation, except to say, please consider this my personal invitation to come to Chicago. And you know what? This, as I said earlier, this is our 12th conference in Chicago. This will be my 4th conference in Chicago. I hope that I'll meet each one of you, and I hope you'll come and say hello to me. And I hope to see all of you in Chicago. We'll look now and see if there are any questions that anyone may have. We'll go down on this. And let's see. All right. I see I've answered some of those questions already. The early bird deadline is December 5th. The Pedagogy Saturday fee is $100. Uh, and the day-to-day schedule, I think, is not available yet, but it should be on the MTNA website relatively soon. And someone asked what it costs to sponsor an MTNA fellow. It's $1,500 to sponsor a fellow, and I think that might be all of the questions that are there. Uh, Let me just say thank you. I'm so happy to be able to talk about the MTNA convention, and I know if this will be your first one, that you will probably become addicted to the MTNA conferences just like I have. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. I will see you in Chicago in 2020.